She sat across from him in the cafe, steam rising from her untouched coffee. He had rehearsed the words 100 times in his head, words meant to spark something in her, to make her eyes light up, to create a bond he desperately craved. He leaned forward, speaking softly, confessing his feelings, hoping vulnerability would pull her closer. Instead, she glanced at her phone, her expression blank, her body already halfway out the door, though she still sat in her chair. He left that day hollow, crushed under the weight of rejection, his heart pounding with the brutal realization. She did not care. His mistake was not in feeling too much, but in giving it away too easily. In revealing his hunger, he killed the mystery. And in killing the mystery, he gave her no reason to miss him. This is where Machiavelli enters. A man who understood human nature not as it pretends to be, but as it is, calculating, selfish, and driven by power. His promise is not comfort, but clarity. He reveals why people behave as they do, and how to tilt the scales of perception in your favor. If you are willing to absorb his lesson, you will gain the power to make any woman miss you, not through cheap tricks, but by commanding the very laws of desire. The thesis is simple, ruthless, and undeniable. Absence is more powerful than presence, but only when absence is deliberately weaponized. Machiavelli knew that when power is displayed recklessly, it breeds contempt, but when power is withheld strategically, it breeds obsession. In matters of love, this truth becomes even sharper. A woman does not miss what she already possesses. She misses what has slipped from her grasp, what remains just beyond her reach. To make her miss you desperately, even if she is not interested, you must become the embodiment of controlled scarcity. And controlled scarcity is not passive. It is an act of war. Imagine a kingdom where the gates are always open, where anyone can walk in freely, where treasures are displayed on the street. Would the citizens value it? No. They would plunder it, laugh at its weakness, and forget it as soon as they leave. Now imagine a fortress surrounded by walls, with rumors of hidden chambers, guarded by silence and selective favor. That fortress becomes the subject of legends. People ache for entry. They dream of conquering it. Desire feeds on distance. Machiavelli understood this dynamic better than anyone. The art of denial as the foundation of power. Why does this matter with women? Because men believe, foolishly, that interest is won through presence. They smother. They text constantly. They offer their time without boundaries. They confess feelings without resistance. And then they wonder why she grows cold. The more you flood her with presence, the more you drown her desire. Interest is not built in what you give, but in what you withhold. Scarcity amplifies value. Your silence, your absence, your restraint, these are the weapons that make her miss you. But this is not about childish games of ignoring her. It is about a transformation in how you see yourself and how you allow yourself to be seen. To make a woman miss you desperately, even if she is not interested, you must first remove yourself from the battlefield of validation. You must reject the position of the beggar and assume the posture of the sovereign. A sovereign does not chase because his value radiates without effort. His absence stings because his presence is rare. His withdrawal is felt like a void, not because he pouts, but because he embodies a standard that demands recognition. Machiavelli's revelation is that power is always relational. You are powerful not in isolation, but in how others perceive you. When you hand a woman the full weight of your attention too early, you strip yourself of leverage. But when you cultivate distance, when you withdraw strategically, you ignite a fire in her psychology that she cannot extinguish. She begins to wonder, to replay moments in her head, to search for clues. The absence becomes heavier than the presence ever was. Pause for a moment and consider this. What hurts more, the harsh words someone says to you, or the silence of someone who once spoke to you with warmth? Silence cuts deeper because it creates space for the imagination, and imagination is cruel. She fills the gaps with her own doubts, her own fears, her own longing. This is how you make her miss you desperately. By refusing to hand her certainty, you force her to live inside the uncertainty. And uncertainty is the breeding ground of obsession. This is the Machiavellian truth you must carry into your bones. The less available you are, the more valuable you become. The more you withdraw, the more she leans forward. The more you resist, the more she chases. And the paradox is that even if she was not interested, your controlled absence plants a seed. That seed grows into curiosity, and curiosity metastasizes into desire. But here is the danger. If you misapply this principle, if you withdraw without building an aura of value, your absence is not felt, it is forgotten. A weak man disappearing leaves no trace. A powerful man disappearing leaves a wound. That is the razor's edge you must walk. Your absence must be an event, not an accident. It must be felt like a loss, not ignored like irrelevance. And so the question arises, how does a man build this kind of absence, one that makes a woman miss him desperately, even when her interest is cold? The answer lies not in manipulation, but in power. Not in pretending not to care, but in genuinely embodying a life so rich, so disciplined, so sovereign, that your withdrawal carries weight. When you walk away, it must echo. Now the revelation sharpens into its final form. Machiavelli teaches that power is perception, and perception is engineered through strategy. You will not win her desire by begging for attention. You will win it by mastering scarcity. You will not make her miss you by chasing her approval. You will make her miss you by removing yourself so completely that her mind becomes a prison of questions she cannot escape. And this leads us to the true battlefield, not her heart, but her imagination. For the imagination always longs for what it cannot hold. Think of the nights when you lie awake, consumed by thoughts of someone who is not there. The absence gnaws at you more than their presence ever could. You remember fragments of their voice, flashes of their smile, the scent that once lingered in the air. But what haunts you is not what they gave, it is what they withheld. It is what remains unfinished, unsaid, unresolved. This is the architecture of longing. This is how obsession is born. And this is exactly the mechanism Machiavelli demands you learn to control if you wish to bend desire in your favor. The mistake most men make is to believe that attraction is created through relentless exposure. They flood her world with texts, calls, gifts, constant appearances. They treat love as though it were a campaign of supply, believing that if they pour enough of themselves into her, she will reciprocate. But this logic is fatal, for desire does not feed on abundance. It feeds on famine. What is always available is rarely wanted. What is scarce is coveted, fought for, remembered in the quiet hours of the night. And yet, scarcity alone is not enough. If you disappear, but leave no impression, you will not be missed, you will be forgotten. To make a woman miss you desperately, even if she is not interested, you must first create a sharp contrast. When you are present, you must be undeniably present, attentive, charismatic, charged with purpose. You must etch yourself into her memory, not through desperate gestures, but through the aura of a man who carries his life as if it were a crown. Then, when you withdraw, the silence becomes deafening. The void you leave behind aches precisely because your presence had weight. Machiavelli would tell you that this is not about romance. It is about power. It is about controlling the frame through which she sees you. If she thinks she owns your time, your emotions, your validation, she will never long for you. She will discard you like a tool she no longer needs. But if she senses, even dimly, that your attention is rare, that your presence is conditional, that your favor can vanish at any moment, she will begin to orbit around you. She will begin to wonder, what did I lose? What did I miss? What must I do to regain it? This is where the cruelty of human psychology reveals itself. We do not miss what is given freely. We miss what is taken from us, or what slips through our fingers before we could grasp it. By withdrawing strategically, you turn yourself into the forbidden fruit, the unfinished chapter, the unanswered question. And unanswered questions are torture. The mind cannot rest until it resolves them. She will replay your words. She will analyze your silence. She will scroll through your messages, looking for meaning. In your absence, you will become louder than you ever were in your presence. But you must not confuse this with childish games. If you vanish as a boy sulking in defeat, she will feel relief, not longing. If you vanish as a man rooted in sovereignty, she will feel the void like a burn. Your absence must radiate strength, not weakness. It must signal that you do not need her, and in that revelation, she will feel her own need for you ignite. Machiavelli would remind you, people fear losing what they do not control. By showing her that she cannot control you, you make yourself unforgettable. And so the principle emerges with brutal clarity. To make her miss you desperately, you must master the art of being both unforgettable and unattainable. You must show her just enough of your world to create fascination, then withdraw before she consumes it fully. You must give her a taste, and then deny the feast. You must leave her mind restless, her emotions unsatisfied, her imagination working overtime. This is the essence of power in love, not in giving endlessly, but in withholding strategically. Now comes the turning blade of Machiavelli's truth. Power is never static. It is always moving, always contested. If you stand still, if you allow her to dictate the terms of interaction, you lose. But if you shift the terrain, if you dictate the rhythm of closeness and distance, if you control the scarcity of your presence, you win. You create the conditions under which she cannot help but miss you, even if she once dismissed you. And here lies the paradox. The more you try to make her miss you, the less she will. The more you release the need, the more naturally your absence cuts. For when you live as a sovereign, when your life is filled with pursuits, ambitions, and discipline, your withdrawal is not an act of manipulation. It is a reflection of your reality. You are not absent to provoke her. You are absent because your life demands it. And that reality is intoxicating. So ask yourself, when you withdraw, will your absence echo like thunder or vanish like smoke? Picture the man who walks away from her, not with bitterness, not with pleading eyes, but with a steady calm that suggests he is walking towards something greater. He does not explain. He does not justify. He does not beg for her understanding. He simply vanishes into the realm of his own pursuits, and in that vanishing, he creates the most powerful presence of all, the presence of absence. This is the paradox Machiavelli forces us to confront. Power is not always in what you do. Sometimes it is in what you withhold. Sometimes it is in the silence that follows your departure. A woman may not notice when you speak endlessly, but she will always notice when you stop speaking. She may ignore you when you are at her feet, but she will always feel your absence when you no longer kneel. This is why the sovereign man does not fear withdrawal. He understands that distance is not defeat, it is strategy. It is the seedbed of longing, and when applied with precision, it transforms disinterest into curiosity, and curiosity into hunger. But to wield this weapon, you must sharpen it with discipline. The weak man withdraws in anger, hoping she will chase. He sulks, waiting for validation. His absence is a tantrum, and so it collapses. The powerful man withdraws without announcement, because his value does not require explanation. His absence is not a plea, it is a decree. She feels it because he has carved himself into her perception, and now that carving becomes a wound. Why does this work even if she was never interested? Because interest is not static. It is not a fixed state. It can be manufactured, manipulated, ignited. Indifference is fragile when confronted with mystery. If she knew you as predictable, she dismissed you. But if you become unpredictable, if you vanish without desperation, if you live as though you are the prize, her indifference begins to tremble. The human mind is wired to pursue what it cannot fully understand, what it cannot fully possess. By withholding, you become that puzzle. By disappearing, you become that riddle. Consider this. When was the last time you longed for someone who was always available? Availability breeds boredom. Distance breeds desire. And Machiavelli understood that to govern hearts is no different from governing kingdoms. You must never allow yourself to be too common, too accessible, too easily consumed. Kings rule because their presence is rare. Lovers are remembered because their absence hurts. But let us cut deeper. To make a woman miss you desperately, you must not only withdraw, you must fill your absence with weight. If you disappear into nothingness, she will forget. But if you disappear into purpose, she will imagine. She will see you as a man in motion, a man consumed by his vision, a man too occupied with conquest to linger at her doorstep. That image lingers in her psyche far longer than words ever could. It is not the boy waiting for her reply who is missed. It is the man building empires, while she wonders if he still thinks of her. Machiavelli would call this the politics of perception. You are not merely a man. You are an image in her mind, a narrative she tells herself. If you control that narrative through scarcity, through mystery, through selective presence, you bind her to you with invisible chains. She misses not just you, but the story she has written about you. And in that story, she becomes the one chasing, the one questioning, the one restless in the night. So I ask you, what kind of absence are you crafting? One that erases you, or one that immortalizes you? The most dangerous mistake you can make is to believe that longing is born in her heart. It is not. Longing is born in her mind. It is constructed, brick by brick, in the spaces where you are not. The human imagination is ruthless. It magnifies what it cannot hold. It romanticizes what it cannot control. It obsesses over what slips away. This is why Machiavelli insists that true power is not in possession, but in denial. To deny strategically is to govern desire. To give too freely is to bury it. Think of the great conquerors. They did not reveal their every move. They allowed whispers, rumors, fragments to circulate. The enemy feared what they could not see. The unseen army was always larger than the visible one. The same law applies to you. If you are always in front of her, she measures you. She counts your flaws. She grows accustomed. But if you vanish, she is left with fragments, with whispers, with rumors. She begins to inflate your presence in her own mind. You grow larger in absence than you ever could in presence. This is why the weak man loses her. He offers himself in totality, immediately, recklessly. He thinks that honesty means unveiling everything at once. He believes vulnerability will inspire care. Instead, it breeds contempt. She feels no need to miss him because there is nothing left to imagine, nothing left to chase. But the sovereign man does not hand himself over. He gives flashes, glimpses, moments of fire, and then he disappears. He controls the rhythm of exposure and withdrawal. He becomes not a man she can pin down, but a storm she cannot predict. And here lies the heart of the Machiavellian revelation. People do not miss abundance. They miss disruption. They miss the one who altered the rhythm of their life and then left. If you are constant, you are background noise. If you are scarce, you are the thunderclap in the silence. To make a woman miss you desperately, you must first disturb her equilibrium, and then you must vanish before she adjusts. That gap becomes unbearable. That absence becomes a wound she cannot soothe. But there is another layer, darker and more powerful. A woman does not just miss the man himself. She misses the way she felt in his presence. If you can make her feel seen, alive, awakened, even for a moment, you carve that experience into her memory. When you withdraw, she does not merely long for you. She longs for the version of herself that only you awakened. That is the obsession that burns. That is the kind of longing that drives her mad. Machiavelli would tell you this. The ruler does not hold power by being loved, nor by being feared, but by mastering the balance of both. In love, the same truth applies. If she feels she has conquered you completely, she will neither love nor fear losing you. But if she feels that she touched something rare, something powerful, something not easily replaced, and then you withdraw, that balance ignites a hunger she cannot silence. So ask yourself with ruthless honesty, when you step back, will she breathe easier? Or will she suffocate in your absence? If it is the first, you are never sovereign. If it is the second, you have touched upon the Machiavellian secret to making any woman miss you desperately, even when she claimed she never cared. And from this point forward, you must live with a single law carved into your bones. Presence must be rare, absence must be deliberate, and both must serve the empire of your sovereignty. Only then will she miss you, as though you were carved from her very breath. Now we arrive at the turning point, the place where theory must harden into steel and become strategy. You understand now why abundance kills desire, why scarcity ignites it, why absence burns deeper than presence. But how do you wield this in the battlefield of love, where emotions, timing, and perception collide? Machiavelli would tell you plainly, you do not leave it to chance. You design it. You orchestrate it with precision, as a ruler orchestrates the loyalties of his court. First, you must confront the truth that most men fear to admit. You cannot make a woman miss you if you have not first carved yourself into her mind. Before you withdraw, you must establish impact. That impact is not in dramatic gestures, not in declarations, but in the quiet intensity of your presence. Speak less than you feel. Move slower than the moment demands. Let her glimpse the weight of your world, not as a performance, but as a reality. The sovereign man reveals himself like a mountain half hidden in fog, present, undeniable, but never fully seen. This is the impression that survives your withdrawal. Second, you must learn the rhythm of scarcity. You cannot simply vanish in totality. That breeds suspicion or indifference. You must appear unpredictably, like a flash of lightning across a dark sky. Enough to remind her of your force, then gone again before she grasps it. This rhythm confuses her certainty. She cannot categorize you, cannot measure you, cannot settle into boredom. And in that confusion, desire ferments. Third, you must weaponize silence. Words are cheap when they are constant. But silence, when it follows presence, becomes deafening. Do not explain why you withdraw. Do not announce it. Allow her to feel the rupture. Let her imagination do the work of torment. A single unanswered question in her mind will burn hotter than 1,000 texts you could send. This is the Machiavellian art. Let others destroy themselves with their own curiosity. Fourth, and perhaps most brutally, you must cultivate a life that makes your absence natural, not contrived. A woman does not miss a man who sits in the shadows waiting for her call. She misses the man who is already in motion, building, creating, conquering. When you withdraw into nothingness, she forgets. When you withdraw into empire, she obsesses. She begins to wonder what you are doing, who you are with, why your time is so scarce. The less you answer, the sharper her hunger becomes. And finally, you must embrace the paradox Machiavelli whispers across centuries. The less you need her, the more she will need you. The moment you detach from desperation, the moment you cease to chase, the power dynamic reverses. She begins to pursue not because you begged, but because you withdrew. She begins to miss you not because you demanded it, but because you left her with nothing but echoes. So here we stand at the edge of the final revelation. To make a woman miss you desperately, even one who never cared, you must transform yourself into a riddle she cannot solve, a presence she cannot fully possess, a man whose absence feels heavier than another man's presence. And in this transformation, you do not merely win her longing, you win yourself. Because the true secret is not about her at all. It is about sovereignty. When you master the art of controlled scarcity, when you learn to wield silence and absence like weapons, you rise above the hunger that enslaves other men. You no longer beg for love. You command respect. You no longer drown in her indifference. You make her drown in your withdrawal. And in that moment, you will understand what Machiavelli tried to teach every ruler, every statesman, every man of ambition. That power is never given. It is taken, shaped, and held through strategy. And desire, yes, even her desire is no different. So the choice lies before you now. Will you remain the man whose presence suffocates with desperation, whose absence vanishes like smoke? Or will you become the sovereign whose silence burns, whose withdrawal enslaves the imagination, whose absence is remembered as though it were carved into eternity? The answer is yours. But know this, once you embrace the Machiavellian path, you will never chase again. You will never beg again. You will never wonder if she misses you. You will know she does. And you will smile not because you needed her to, but because you mastered the game she never even knew she was playing.